The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everybody, welcome to the weekly Noyantis Usergroup meeting. Today is the 6th of April 2020. Myself and John are your hosts, and as always, if you've got any questions or queries, solutions or ideas, then please feel free to raise your hand. We'll get the microphones opened and we will cover the content accordingly. Now, while we are waiting for questions to come through, I know we've got one question where I promised I would show basic approach of docking panes, so we'll cover that. That's a question that's already come in. But the sorry, 1 second. Sorry about that. We will. One thing we've currently got pending is the calendar update, and I'm glad to report then that is ready. It's done. Now we did obviously illness has delayed it, but it's in shape now to release. We did say in the webinar something like 10 days ago that we was going to release it in basically it's 4.13 and 4.14. Essentially, it's going to be one build, but internally it's one build, but we're releasing it in two parts so that you can get your hands on it. But yeah, just quickly cover some of the items that are in the update. First and foremost is the new way of loading. You've got a couple of new options open to you on the data I/O, and it will be worth people taking note of one of the keys that I mentioned here. Let's just go on to the calendar, won't be a second. So, a couple of new sources. One is a group structure, just in case maybe you're using Ultimate SQL and you bring the data in by a group or a queue. For that matter, you have got the queue load which you had in the past. But maybe you just populate in a particular group and you just want to get the data from that group, and vice versa. When you select an event, that group will also keep itself in sync. That kind of happens regardless of regardless of which option you select. So that's one of the new enhancements. But we're going to cover the file view file, and what you've got with this now is the ability to say which table you take the events from, which key you want to use on that table, and what the unique ID is of each event. So a bit like in any of our products, report control, command bars, calendar, so on and so forth, everything you really need to come back to one unique ID, so that when you want to go and change the property of an entity, you can specify it via an ID that you can understand rather than what the internals know it as. So I mentioned a tip, and basically if we have a look, we've give you a tip here, and the loading is now done via two passes. It does of that table. The first pass is loading the non-recurring events, and the second pass will load recurring events. So the best key structure to use for both scenarios would be a key like so. First part of the key, I mean, you might have other subsequent parts later on, and that's perfectly fine, but I would recommend the first part being the schedule ID. Even if you're not using multiple schedules, define it as, well, if you're not using it, define it as a byte, then you're just wasting one byte. But I would have the schedule ID in there, then the recurring indicator, which is a byte anyway, and then the start date. And basically, what it will do for each of those, in fact, we could have a look in this for some examples. Not in this example, I'll load one in a second, but what it will do for you there is it will loop through all the schedules which are on show. So let me just bring one here. Okay, so here we've got two schedules on show. two people, if you will, but these could be production lines, they could be resources that you plan events for, so on and so forth. So these are the type of content, if you will. So these are your schedules. So you would want that to be the first part, and what it will do is it will loop through each one on show. So we can see here we've got several potential resources, and we can put another one on. But there's only 3 on show, so it will loop through each one of these in turn. Let's go back to this. So it will loop through those. Then it will go through the recurring where they are set to non-recurring. So the second part would be the recurring indicator. So 0 would be non-recurring, and I think master recurrence is 1. So it would loop through all the zeros. That's why you want that to be the second part of the key. And it would load them just for the range that is on show. And that's where the third part comes into it, the start date. So for example, if I'm loading the 6th and the 7th, it would load for Andy Wilton, non-recurring, the 6th, then the 7th, well, starting at the 6th and ending at the 7th. Then it would do Dr. D. Freeman, again, starting at the 6th, ending at the 7th, and then Harry Webster, and again, starting at the 6th. So it loads basically the bare minimum amount of data to get the content into your calendar. So let's just come off that. That's just a tip. If you want to use a file loading, which is your better option, obviously, then I would do so, but have a key matching that structure. You can join tables in to the view, and of course it will load them accordingly, and so on and so forth. And the example app will include a demonstration of this. You can hotfield things in should you need to. And then last but not least is it wants to know what your field names are. So e.g. event ID and the staff ID, so on and so forth, start date, what each one of the fields are. Now, if you're using the example dictionary, what we've done is create the buttons up here, which will fill them in for you. So, for example, clear will get rid of everything, and then apply will actually go and put all the defaults in for you. Just saves you a lot of typing. So we go back to these. There's a clear, and there's the apply. Okay, so that's first and foremost. Any questions on that bit? Hopefully, it kind of makes sense. You don't have to use a file, of course. All the previous loading which you would have had is still perfectly valid. It's all backwards compatible. It's just you're better future-proofing yourself if you get the calendar to write the code for you. And of course, it means that oh, sorry, I just jumped 1 second. A combination of the view/file loading and the extra tab, which is related record. And again, you've got the apply defaults and clear. A combination of the content of this and the file loading will mean that you can eliminate a very high percentage of the embed code which you would normally have in your application. The related record, what that will do is, and that's not necessarily related directly to the view load. It could be you. Oh, sorry, just 1 second. Let me just. Won't be 1 second. This is me just leaving some debugging during some optimization a second ago. Just recompile that. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, you might have your the previous way of loading, which was manually loaded, and what happens is now, as you navigate around, what it can do is when an event is selected, it will automatically bring a related record into basically find it for you. So for example, we said in this example, The related record comes from the event table. There's our key. So this time we're going to use a different key. We know the ID, that we're on the record ID. So we're going to use that particular key, and we're going to go and fetch it on that particular ID. So this could be that you are loading from, as we said, Ultimate SQL. You might be loading the data from Ultimate SQL into a queue. Your data source might be set to queue, but ultimately you would still want to go and fetch the record when you are navigating around here. Maybe prior to going updating the record, that kind of thing. So what you can do there is fill in the entries for the related record, and it will make sure that it does the generates the code for you. So now, just for those two, we've eliminated the code which historically you would have put into all of these embed points. The data delete record, the data fetch, the insert, the load exceptions, load time, no, not that one, the lock record, prime, and the unlock and the update. So basically we can eliminate all that code just by you filling in those two new entries on the template. So quite good, quite powerful. What else? Oh, you probably saw on that example a second ago. Back to this one. What I've given you now is just like a browse, if you will, insert, change, delete buttons. So these are under the calendar, and you've got update buttons. Just like the report control has update buttons, the calendar has it. It's literally a case of dropping the buttons on the screen and then setting the associated to the calendar and how you want them to navigate. So basically, how do you want them to operate? So you can add to the right click and then disable when you're not on a selected event. And similar to a browse or a report control, we have a dependent button or equivalent of a browse no records button. And that's what these are. So I'll say, for example, I will add another one here. So I will add an event button. Let's have that there. I'll have that. Call it button 3. We'll just get it to do something so you can actually see it in action. And of course, what we should have done is gone to the actions and just said, okay, you are associated with the calendar. We add it to the right click and just disable when you're not on an event. So now let's take a look at that example. And button 2 is hidden because that was a test. I've told button 2 to hide itself when you're not on an event. So if I right click, it's added itself to the right click as we wanted. Button 2 is hidden, and our insert, change, delete are also reflecting their current state. If I was to click on an event, then of course button 2's appeared and they're all enabled. And there's our button 3. So basically, that's your like a browse no records button, but equivalent for the calendar. Okay, John, I know one thing that you quite like the look of. I'll just come out of this example, and it was the link to the property grid, and that's fully completed and working now. So what this is again calendar, and we've added to the application at the global level a property grid. So just let me actually just come out of this. Added a property grid. I've gone to our window and placed a property grid on the screen. Not done any other settings. Oh, actually, I think I might. I've just told it. Was it on show? Yeah, show help. I just turned the show help off. We could leave it on if we wanted to, but it just turned it off. But that was a personal preference. Then you go to your calendar. And there's a new third-party tab. We'll go across to that. Oops. And we want to link to the property grid, so we will say it's linked to a property grid. There's a property grid, and what elements of the property grid do we actually want to populate? So, for example, we do want a category date and time, and we want those elements in it. We want a category of event, and we're going to have the subject and the location. Maybe we don't have the body. Well, I'll leave them all on, because basically you just turn off what elements you don't want. This is to do the reminders, so email, minutes before, name, phone number, reminder sent, things like that. That's for another update, but I'll show you. Okay, so so we've got two, go long one, long two. Let's put an event in. Test one. And we'll have one on that schedule there. Test two. And so on. So as I navigate around, here's the property grid, no content, and so on. Then I click on one particular item, and of course the details are filled in correctly. If I was to resize, we can see that's just gone from 10 to 10:30 to 10 till 11. That's correct. And of course I could change it up here. So I could say, okay, that is now 10:20. And it will change the calendar accordingly, and that is now saved. So the event record on file has now been updated as well. So that's all real time for you. Likewise, if you want to, what it will do is it will read the schedules on the calendar. So we can see we've got long one, long two, long three, long four. I'm going to change this one, and it fills in basically the schedules from their names. So each schedule can have an ID, then it can have a long name and then a short name. So hence why I've called it long one, just for testing purposes. There will be a better example app which gets shipped, so don't worry about that. But I can say, okay, move this to number 3. If we have a look now, there it is, and of course that's been saved. So all of these changes are done instant. So I could come out of there, go out, go back in, and it should be across on number 4, which it is. And then I will bring it back, and it's gone to 3, and there it is on 2, and so on. That's the link to your property grid. And the good thing for you is no code again, so it's nice and simple. So yeah, and you've got your reminders, so you can see the reminders just appeared accordingly, and so on and so forth.
That is really, really nice. Excellent. Well
You like that? I thought you would. And again,
yeah, it's all right.
It's all right. Yeah,
it's fair. I don't know if people spend too much time on it. No, it's awesome. I love it. It's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I'm quite chuffed with it, I've got to admit. There's been a few new class methods added to support so that these write immediately, and then obviously get written to the table or get updated to the table correctly, and so on. But that's my problem. As far as you're concerned, it's just one tick, and and that's it. So and of course, all of this, even down to the wording, is customizable. So, for your multilingual, you will set the wording of this, and you will set the wording of this, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so it's and if you didn't want the reminder section to be on at all, then we just turn those off, and you don't get them. So that's your the property grid. Now we obviously we touched on the reminders, and I think it was Marty. Because I saw Marty here before actually. Yep, yeah, Marty is here. Oh, Marty, I'm just going to open the mic, put you on the spot, which I like to do. Are you there? Sounds like you are.
Yes, I am.
Ah, very good. So
always a pleasure.
Now, I know we spoke about the reminders 1, Sorry, 1 second. Okay. For the reminders, yes, we've got that. Obviously, it's just the usual. Do you want a reminder so many minutes before? That kind of thing. New options which have now gone into the calendar to store against a reminder. Previously, you had the reminder, you had a sound file, and you had the minutes before. Now, what it will also do now is keep track of reminder sent, the phone number, and the email. Now, at the moment, you can start implementing those, and we'll use another example to show the trigger and the reminders. But the plan is, I said this release is going out in 2 parts. Just remembering you've got these, so the name, the phone number, and the email, which are and sent, which is your new ones, if you will. Now, just like we linked to Property Grid, you have got the ability to link to the pop-up reminders. So all we've done here is add the suite controls extension, and on our extension, we've just added a pop-up control. Gone with the defaults. I think I chose a particular theme. I think I chose Office 2016, if memory serves. Let's just take a quick look. Yeah, Office 2016, Word, dark grey. But that's the only setting I did on there. And then on our third party tab, we say link it to a pop-up, and we've got no data. Let me put an appointment in for this morning. There you go. Meeting with John. There you go. And it was this morning at 9 a.m. Now it knows it's been missed and it's come up. So it says meeting with John, and there's a pop-up, and we can open the event from here should we need to, and change it, obviously, which is just changed. That's just me just changing that. So basically you can snooze, dismiss, everything you would expect. So that's one of the new options for the reminders. You've still got your others, like the built-in Kojak window, the built-in Noyantis window, and the custom window. Now, that's this upgrade. This is in the first part. In the second part, there will be the link where it will automatically send the text message out for you for any reminders that are due to trigger. And that's where the sent indicator will be updated once that text message has been sent. So that update will be in the second part. This actually lull's gone into this first part, so the second part is still on track. It won't be delayed, even though the first part's been delayed through illness. The second part won't be, because I've ended up doing more of the work in the first part anyway. But that will be the text message. The reason I opened your mic, Marty, was you mentioned about the ability to maybe send emails. Is that correct?
Well, it was email, and of course because email holds more than text, and what seemed as you would say, obvious. The problem is all of this is it's all feature creep, right? Oh well, Andy, if it can do this, how about that? And
yeah,
so
and that's the email came about.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the multiple schedule thing that, and I think you started to look at it because, of course, it immediately suggested the things that you had in the dental practice scheduling. So if you're doing a calendar, which is for yourself, everything you've just demonstrated is the ordinary kind of thing. It gives you a reminder, and it can text to your phone, and it can send you an email. Except if what you're doing is a scheduler for a bunch of other people, then of course what you really want is you want it to send the text or the email to them, the person for whom that is their schedule. So we want it to go to Andy, or we want it to go to John, or whatever, and so then we have to link it off to theirs.
Not necessarily. I mean, yes, you'd be able to do that. That'd be no problem.
Well, and then we got, of course, to Chilcat and Twilio, because then you want to know if they've texted you back to accept the appointment.
Yes, and so on. And Yeah.
so on, right?
Yeah, and as you say, feature creep and so on. Now, the second part, as I say, will include the sending of the actual text. It really is close where I don't want to delay the other thing. I want this this out, and it's now done. Literally just doing some optimizations. I've got to give the example app a once through, but that is the only actual thing. So I am more than happy with everything that I've put in there. That's good. But yes, basically the sending of the text, what it will do is, as we've just seen here, instead of the pop-up triggering, basically a text will just fire automatically in the background. And when that's been sent, and it will use the Chilcat wrapper, yes. And what that will do is it will know when it's been sent. It gets basically a status back. Sent, delivered, so on and so forth. And I will tie that status into the sent on here. So it probably will go from a checkbox to actually being a drop down of the status where it's been queued, sent, delivered, or maybe errored. Maybe it's an invalid number, thing like that.
Right.
And so on. And to follow, but it won't be in the next build, but to follow will be the email where, and again, I'll be using the Chilcat to do that. But you will also be able to implement, if you're using NetTalk or maybe ViewMail, there's a couple of email software templates out there already, and so on. So yeah, so you've got NetTalk for your email or ViewMail, and I'm not sure there's another one. Oh, Clarion's built in ones, I think, actually, thinking about it. And then what you can do is there is an embed point which triggers called reminders fired, which is, if you use the custom example, let me just go into, where's our example? Reminders. Okay, now that's a custom window. And what it does is, the template will prime you up a queue and so on. And then this is just shipped as an example. You can have your own particular window, create it exactly as you want it, and the buttons just call particular methods. Now, what a point I was making there is, we've put a window on it, but to go to yours, if you wanted to use in Chilcat, then not Chilcat, whatever, NetTalk or ViewMail, or the Chilcat will do it automatically for you because the link will be seamless. But as those reminders fired triggers, then what it will do is you'll be able to put your code in there and go, okay, go and send the email at that point. And then if you know it's been sent, you could update your own sent indicator when you've got a successful back from the your email client.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So yeah, so that's why I thought I'd just mention that to you, because I know you have obviously got email capability and so on, and you're pointless you reinventing code and so on. So that's the embed point you would use. So you would, very similar to this, where the reminder's fired, but you wouldn't be opening the window and doing various different entries. You would just be populating the, passing that queue which has been primed up for you, and in that queue is all the new content. So your email address would be in there, stored against a particular event, so on and so forth. As long as you've primed them up, of course. It's only as good as the information you put in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the event that, but these are all for the single schedule calendar.
No, it will work. The multi-schedule calendar as well.
And that was what I assumed. Just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, no, yep. You'll
right.
you'll work with that as well. Yep.
Right.
What I should do for next week, I'll just quickly show you. Obviously, I use schedule it quite a lot, so I'll just give you an idea of how we're implementing it in ours. So we just adding the facility where they can set up their templates. So let's say an appointment reminder. Okay, so we can see here that we've got dear patient's first name. So here's some tokens that we allow them to have. So dear patient's first name, sorry. This is a reminder for your appointment on appointment start date at appointment start time with and the particular staff member that you're having the appointment with. If you're unable to attend, then please blah blah blah. something like so. Now, what we'll do then is when the reminder triggers, that will automatically, these will get basically a find and replace will occur with the particular elements. So that could just be the reminder name out of the queue. Now, these are a bit of extra information, so no, we're going to actually implement it slightly differently, but I don't mind covering this during next week's webinar if you like. Oh, sorry, no, it's public holiday next week, during the week after's webinar. John, we need to remember that there's no webinar next week. But yes, basically, I don't mind walking through the code of how this is done, if you will.
Looks very nice.
Yeah, we try to make it like so. We should be able to. Where's staff? Oh,
Right. So if you've got a staff file, then
yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, that's the idea behind it.
it looks very nice. So you're going to have all these correspondence templates in the next build, right?
the example of the calendar. I'm not sure we'll go that far, but I don't mind. I don't mind doing this, taking people through, what how I built this.
No, it's inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, the idea is let's just do a test.
Well, like with a lot of things, I think that many of us can think of, the original conceptual building blocks are straightforward, sure. Then you get to the actual implementation, and that's where you begin to run into some snags.
Well, luckily, because I've done this type of thing in the past, and schedule it is next to need this exact approach. So this is I'll have this finished. The actual maintenance is now done, and it will be a maintenance not just for our text message. We can also let them set out templates for phone calls that they're going to make, so that when they actually make the phone call, they're basically going off script and they can ask questions and put the answers, basically into a pre-filled script, that kind of thing. But you're also going to have email and letter. And I'm going to look this week at meetings as well, because I think I'm going to have a look at the Zoom API and add that to the Chillcat. Because I think that the online meeting, especially with what's going on in the world at the moment, then adding Zoom capability to Chillcat is a bit of a necessity. So I'm going to add it so that schedule it can make use of that, so they'll be able to actually start online meetings straight from the software.
Beautiful.
So, but watch this space for next week. Not next week, next webinar. Okay. Calendar, we're more or less there actually. Oh, you got we come out of that. Sorry, back to that. The date picker, the date lookup has had a bit of a makeover, so that again you control all the wording and so on. But yes, you have got the extra navigation buttons here, so we can go back and forward a year at a time. We can jump to a particular year. The number of years what are in this are on the template. There's no extra setting on the template saying just how many years. So it defaults to, I think it's 200 years prior, 200 years.
That ought to be enough, I think.
So, well, it could be, but I mean, I did 100 to start with, and I thought, well, no, because people's date of birth are over 100 years old, so it would fail straight away. So,
right. Hey, Andy.
Yes.
I have a question for you here on this screen. So when it pops up, is it keyboard friendly? Like if you close it and then pop it up again, can you just move the keys, the arrow keys around, and then like press enter to select the date, or do you have to use a mouse?
Do you know what? I don't know. Let me put.
Well, the question would be, what's going to have focus though? Do you want the buttons, or do you want the date on the month to have focus?
I would want the date on the month to have focus, because I just want to go and just arrow around and pick the date, like move 2 days forward or something, press enter and be done.
All right.
Okay. I'm just going to choose
So
July 19th date on my birthday. So I've got there, so I've got that. So as I open, okay, So, and it's highlighted the 19th. So now just let me just try that, make sure I haven't. So I go in. Now, is it just a matter of the tabbing? If I click that into focus, oh, it's literally just a matter of the tabbing. Right, just let me try that 1 second. Won't be a second. Got the code here, so we're just going to take a look. Now, what's going on here? Oh, can't see the go to webinars blocking the thing. Sorry about that. Right. Sorry about this. Won't be a second.
Wonder if it needs something like the report control where it says, "Give this focus."
That's
manage the window or
literally just
something.
what I'm doing now. Open the window. I just need that particular method. Close, open. There you go. Event open window. That's just what I'm after. Okay. So we just recompile that. Let's just check that for you. It would be nice, I suppose, if those other buttons had shortcuts assigned to them. Okay, so into here, I'm going to put in 1972. So I've got a year, I've got a date, and I go in, and then I can go left and right, and then we want the select button to have the enter associated with it. But
Right.
yeah, that would really be it, wouldn't it? Can't find the select button. It's my window. Oh, there it is. Ooh, is it enter key? No, is it key enter?
No, it's enter key.
Don't seem to like it. Key enter key, yeah. Key enter key on a button. Ah. Just thought what that might be. It could need the key codes, including. Yeah, doesn't know what the key code is. Sorry about that, won't be a second. Okay, so let's try this again for you. Date 01/01/2000. Right arrow, enter. There you go, the 5th. Is that
There
okay?
you go. That's it. That's
Go
the
back in, blah, 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 escape. Escape is the natural cancel. If you want to give us some suggestions for these, I'll put some on them. Just not sure what they would be. Control left and shift left.
Yeah, sounds reasonable.
They sound familiar. I'm not sure. Are those the ordinary defaults we wind up with in other settings?
Not sure.
Because we do have those buttons in other places. I didn't know what the keyboard associates are for those. Hard to come up with the standards sometimes.
Trying to find where I'd find them.
And while I'm thinking about it, the today button, I usually use like the home key for the today button. But I don't know. Maybe this is one of those things where you need to let people pick them.
Yeah. Home and end sometimes are the beginning and end of the range on the screen. It's always tricky.
Yeah. It might be a thing where maybe you don't need to pick them and just let us decide.
Yeah.
Then just make a quick note for that. Key shortcuts. Yeah, I think it's better. I'll put some defaults in there, but you can override them, just like that 200.
The template, yeah.
Yeah, there's a date lookup, and in there you have just one extra entry in there now. And it's a year selection, 200. That will set the behind and ahead. Now, if you wanted to manually override one of them, then there is you just go to the embed point where that is generated and just change it accordingly. Override it. But I just figured one would be enough.
Hey, Andy, now that you've got I don't know how many tabs on the template, it's beginning to make me wonder, would it be useful to have a drop list or some other way of looking through the tabs so that you could see quickly navigate, because now you're navigating left and right. It seems like 15 or 20 tabs worth on the template.
The template is
getting rather busy.
Yes, it's getting a good size, to be fair.
Just use Clarion 11 because it's got the nice wider screen.
Ah, right.
Just update.
Well, do you know this is still Clarion 6 compatible? That's the frightening thing. So yeah, but yes, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, you're running Clarion 10 right now. That's the thing. 17. Kicked up to 11, you'd see more.
Yeah, it's 22 tabs.
Yeah.
And on each one of those, there can be quite a lot of
more
sub-content. So yeah, there's a lot of settings. It's
it's just sort of being able to remember where the setting is. It's in there somewhere, but you're digging and digging, which tab and which sub-content tab, and if there was some way to bring up a matrix that listed the settings in the location, it might be.
Yeah, maybe another.
Now we're getting to feature creep again, but it's.
Yeah, maybe, I know it sounds crazy, but another tab called navigation, where basically it does a series of buttons which will jump you straight across to the right click, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's some optimizations. Last but not least was which we covered the link to the charting, where it will automatically find the related data for a chart. I'll quickly show you, but I think we kind of know what it was. We already covered it in previous ones. Again, implemented the same as, let's say, the report control, where you and similar to the property grid, you add the report control, you add you add the chart, you add the third-party link to the chart, and then where's the data go? Put some data in here. There's one at 10 o'clock, so it's got a 9 a.m. Oh, sorry, that's it there. We'll put another one in here. I've got this set to analyze the hours, the busiest hours of the day, if you will, that kind of thing. So we can see here There's that. Put another one in for 9 till 10, and so on and so forth. So you get to see this. We pull that down, and it will change accordingly. But yeah, so that's just some showing you. Main thing of the charting is what we mentioned last week, that will take your recurring events into account, which is quite powerful. But that will take the recurring into account. Okay, I think there's probably other stuff. We've got pop-ups, we've got the property grid, we've got the chart pro, got the file IO, which was no mean feat, but we've got that done. We've got the lookups, we've got the dependent buttons, got the insert, change, delete buttons. Yeah, the ones which are going to the next build will be the auto sending of the SMS, the auto link on the right click for creating a calendar ICS file. That will actually go into this one because it's only just an extra check I've got to put onto the template. That will go into this, and then it will be released. So you can definitely expect this tomorrow because it's there, it's demonstrated, it's tested. I'm really happy with it. Okay, Donald, you there? Let's put one in the spot. Open the microphone. Hi, Donald.
Hey,
Hi.
Andy, how are you?
Yes, fine, thank you. Yourself?
I'm doing well. Just playing around with my brand new docking panes template.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, that's an old version. We've got a beta version. It might be worth me actually sending you that one rather than that, because there are some issues which have been identified in the version you've got, and the new one is a lot better. So it might be worth me passing you a beta of the new one.
Oh,
But
cool.
the reason I mentioned that was it was just some tips and tricks on the docking pane. Obviously, you're still getting familiar with lots of the products. All I wanted to mention, this is a product we've been writing, and we keep using it as a test bed. It's not a test bed; it's actually a live app, but we can put the idea across of how we've approached things. So basically, we've got our application frame, and instead of adding any of the extensions to the application frame, what we've done, I'll open the source code of this just to demonstrate. So back to our app, just while that's loading. So we've got our application frame. Oops. Yeah, got our application frame. There's nothing on it. We go to this. Yeah, I don't think there's much by the way of code on there at all. All it does is open a docking host window, and that's the key to the if you want, depending on the look and feel that you want to create in applications and so on and so forth. But what we wanted to do here is to give all the functionality and flexibility of an MDI application, but present it more in an SDI. So for example, I'll go to our patient list. Okay, so there's a patient list open, and I shall highlight a particular person. Okay, now I will go off to, say, block time. So now block time is open. If I go back to our patient list, it is still exactly where I left it, and that is back on that particular patient. Okay, and if I've gone and done anything to that, so maybe I've gone and brought in extra fields, that kind of thing, and I'm using docking panes to handle these this content for us as well, and so on. Back to our block time, and again, that is exactly where we left it. So that's the kind of look and feel that we wanted from this application. So what we did is, application frame did nothing but open a docking host window. And that host window is literally, let's say from, if you can see the cursor just above the scheduler icon, the top left there, down to the end of the status bar there, the bottom right. And that basically is just a dummy window which is open maximized. So yeah, if we take a look at this, there's some things about our security. That's not neither here nor there. But all it really does is start there. Start main, which is a host window, if you will. On here, just a frameless window, so it's not very exciting. And it opens maximized, so it takes up all of the client area. But then on here, it has our other pieces of content. So we will have our docking pane, which is told to take over all of the client area. So now our docking pane is going to take over basically the client area. So it's responsible for what is displayed between that corner to that corner. Not quite true actually, because I've got command bars on there, and the two are made aware of each other. There's a tab, third-party tab, on the docking pane where you say link to command bars, and if the two are both on the window at the same time, by clicking that option, it makes them both aware of each other. So the command bar will take its space that it needs, and then it will leave the remaining space to the docking pane, and so on. So that's a little tip for you there. And then on the docking panes, we define the actual panes. So I've got a pane for the navigation here on the left, which can be folded back, of course, and just brought out when I need to switch the actual active content, if you will. What's gone on there? Because that should have folded itself back. Ooh, that's one for the bug list then. Just go back into that. Okay, so yeah, basically what we do there is we say we've got a pane here to the left. I'll open up our patient list. And then I've got, for each option that I'm opening on the right, if you will, what I consider the work area, I've got a pane defined for each one of those. So I've got a pane defined for our appointment book. I've got a pane defined for the day list, and the same for the patient list, and so on and so forth, so for each one of those. And also some setup options. So we mentioned correspondence templates before. So I've got a pane defined for those as well. So just to show you on that screen, got my command bar, yep, that's my info bar across the top with the logo, which we saw, and the text, and our setup button on the right. So there's our setup, which is here, with some setup options on, things like that. We've got our docking panes, and you've got two types of docking pane to add to the window. You've got a docked and a positioned. You'll want the docked, so it takes over all of the available client area. Go on to here, and I'm going to say, okay, go to our panes, and there's all our panes defined. So I've got one for the navigation, and then one for each one of the ones on the right. So we said about appointments, and that's that pane, and the day list, and that's that pane, and so on. And then the trick of making these disappear and appear at will, i.e. when I click on between that to that and that, okay, and the tip of that is, let's go straight to our first one. Actually, dashboard was our first one, and we use a term called collection. Now this, from a docking pane point of view, means nothing. This is more a Noyantis invention, if you will. And what we do is, it's just a word, can be anything you like. I just call it work for work area. And I've put this collection, this pane, this dashboard, in a collection called work. Now, if I look at our other ones, like appointments, that is also in work. Our day list is also in work, and so on and so forth. Now I happen to open with the application being on dashboard by default. Okay, so that is visible by default, and I don't want the pane to be closed. It doesn't have a title, because I accomplish that in a different way, and I'll show you in a second. I don't want a title, and the key here is these last two options: auto hide other panes in the collection when selected. So that basically when I click, that's on the block time is on show. If I go back to the appointment, it's hidden the block time and displayed the appointment pane, and vice versa. So the pane's still active, as we know. We go to here and we choose a particular person and so on. That pane is still active, it's just hidden. That's all. And the last one is the don't open child content until selected. Basically, imagine, if you will, you've got any number of panes. So we've got quite a few here. Waiting list. I don't think we've clicked on that yet. So the very first time I click on it, it knows that it wants to open a Clarion window, but it's not opened yet because we've never clicked on it. So the very first time, we're going to get a slight delay, and it opens it. But then after that, it's open. It knows it's got its handle. It knows it's there. It's initialized, and you can use it accordingly. So that's the tip between those. So they are really the tips that I wanted you to. I don't know if they're going to be anything of use to you, Donald, but that's the kind of that's the tip that I really wanted to get across for the docking panes.
Yeah, that's very nice. And what I like about it, and why I've started purchasing your products is, if you looked at that app that you just demonstrated, you would be hard pressed to say, oh, that's a Clarion app. And I'm not knocking the default Clarion.
No, I know exactly where you're coming from. It was part of the reason why we actually starting to do them. I mean, I'm a Clarion.
A lot of times I can see an app and go, oh, that's a Clarion app.
Yeah, I'm a Clarionite through and through. I really am. But all the years ago, we needed a powerful calendar, and there wasn't one, and so hence why we started looking and settled upon Kojak stuff. And then when I saw the rest of the content, and you can see what's capable with it, and it's not just about making things look pretty, for want of a better term, but it's actually functionality. Say, for example, that list there. Now, we all know with a Clarion list, we can put loads of entities in loads of columns in a Clarion browse and so on, but your user would be forever scrolling left to right to find the particular fields they want. Whereas we can use a report control, which is a terrible name, but it's still a list. So we use that, and then we can actually let the user start selecting what fields they want. So they could go, okay, I need that, and so on. All of a sudden, now it looks pretty, but also we are now giving them things, because these can be saved and restored. I've got to put them into this app actually, but these settings can be saved and restored. So now we're putting a lot of power back to the user.
Right.
So now it's not just UI; it's actual functionality in my mind. And then we can let them turn the filter bar on. So okay, so now only show me people within Kirkby and Ashfield. So now they're doing data, data filtering, data mining, all within the code, which is loaded. So no reloading and so on. So you do want all the people that, but I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, no, probably a poor example there. Not enough data, but it could be that and Wilton, and there you go. And now you've fine-tuned just down to the person you're after. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I discovered that functionality yesterday, and another thing I really liked about the report controls is how easy it is to add, simply add an icon based on a condition.
That's relatively new. We added that functionality. I don't know, last 2 or 3 builds, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, you can have icons in a standard Clarion browse, but you got to jump through a few extra hoops to make that happen. And so,
yeah, no, that's the idea. One last tip on this is let me just turn that filter off. So there's our 2 panes, if you will. We've got our navigation pane on the left, and we've got and this happens to be our patient pane on the right. So then I said I don't give that pane a particular title. You can do, say, work schedules. Okay, now I happen to know that does have a title here. sections. So there's our work schedules, and there's the sections that they work. So on a Sunday they work those hours at that location, and on a Monday, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now we are using a pane there. But I'll go back to our patient one. Now, the child window, the Clarion window, which is running for clients, that is, for patients, is from that corner there down to this corner. So that is the work area, if you will, that pane. Now I have a command bar on that, so I'm using a command bar within that window to give me the look and feel, and I'm using a command bar, another bar underneath, to give me the actions that they can perform, so they can go off and send a message and so on. Use one of those predefines which you saw earlier. And we've also got another bar on the left to give us quick filtering, so I can quickly jump to just the W's or just the B's or all, that kind of thing. So we've got that, and then also on that window I've added a docking pane of its own. So we've got a docking pane manager, if you will, running at the host window right at this very, very high level, and then each window on the right, I actually have each window that's going to open on this work area actually has its own docking pane manager. So now I've got a docking pane manager at the main host window level, and then each one on the right has its own docking pane manager, and this has its own content. So it has the report control in there, it has the field picker of the report control hosted within another pane, hence why it can just pop out and fold itself back. And then I have a related information pane down at the bottom, which is actually running another Clarion procedure, which just sends notifications through as you navigate around. As you click record to record, it just sends a notification through to that pane. And there's methods in the docking pane to say send a notification to that pane, or send an event, post an event to that pane, and it will find what the highest parent window is in that thread of that pane and pass the message or the notification through to that for you automatically.
Well, you just answered a question I had, so.
You at CIDC 2019, because I remember saying hello. So you've got access to all the training and so on, and we cover an example application where we create something very similar to this. Because it's a formula I use quite often. So you've actually got an example app available to you as part of the training content, as a starting point, if you will.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, this is very, very nice.
Save you some time.
Very nice.
Else. So, okay. Do you know, we've not, I've just rabbited on for 60 odd minutes and we've not had any questions. That's either everybody's asleep or, oh, we've got a hand up. Okay, yes. Hi.
Hi, this is a trainer. I work on with the docking pane. I have questions.
Okay.
So like this on your window, we have left pane, but we put some buttons on the left pane top, the window top. There are some refresh issues when we initially open the main window. The button won't show up until I mouse hover the buttons. Is there any way to refresh?
No,
have you seen those issue or that refreshing?
Now, are you using a positioned docking pane or a docked docking pane? And what I mean by that is, if you go to, let's just go back. So we've got here, and we can see that says docked. What does yours say?
Oh, let me check. Mean host. Yeah, docked.
Okay.
It shows docked.
Okay, so when it's docked, which I use all the time, it basically takes responsibility for everything on the window. So for mine, my docking host window, which is this main, it's open maximized, but basically it is responsible for everything what occurs on that window. So if I was to add a button, I'm going to watch this because it's my application, so I won't save it. But if I was to add a button just onto the window there, that would probably be hidden or be overwritten because the docking pane, as well, let's say that button was under here, the docking pane would take responsibility for what's content it's got to handle and basically write over the top of that, if you will. You might be able to hover over it and get it to redisplay, but what you need to do is if you want content on that window, then it's got to be specified within one of the actual panes. So say for example on here, if I wanted to add a button, I will quickly do that. I'll add a button above navigation. Okay.
Okay.
So what I would have to do, again, we would be on our main, granted. I'm going to put that button, which we just did there. There's our button, button 1. But I'm going to have to go to our docking pane, and I'm going to have to make a new pane for it to use. So I'm just going to call it button, oops, yeah, button 1, something like so. Now, just going to bring it near the nav so I can see. So I'm just going to get my sizes, won't be 1 second. I've got my navigation being 125, right. So I'm going to say it is 125 in width, height, maybe 100, and I want it above, so yeah, top of nav. And the piece of content is going to be a Clarion window control, and it's going to be our button. There we go, button. So now we've got our navigation pane, and I've got a button 1 pane, which contains that Clarion button, and it's positioned on top of the nav pane. So if I was to compile that, oh, okay. But it's doing it above everything. But there's my button basically. So that is the key, because we've said we are using a docking pane. Then it will basically take over the entire client area of that window. If we use a positioned one, then it will only take on the size, the dimensions, and the position of the control that you have drawn. But of course, that can come in handy if you wanted it just as part of a screen. But in this scenario, yeah, we need to change the settings of that. But that's basically what you would want to do. It needs to be in a pane of its own.
Okay, so the button 1 you just created is in the main. So our situation is the buttons on the sub pane, the other, yeah, it's not on the main is on the other panes, like left pane is a contacts list.
Right.
That is window. There are some buttons. So
can I see your screen? I might be able to give a recommendation. Can I see your screen?
Yeah, I don't know how. The first time I joined this, I don't know how to share my window.
Okay, that's no problem. So I've just sent an option to you.
Okay.
And it will say yes to see your screen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Can you see?
Yes.
This?
Yep.
Yeah, those buttons. If I initially started, let me close. So.
Are you working with Alan?
Yes, it's
It's open. There's my.
it's Schoolcraft legal system.
Alan, your mic's open. Did you want to join in?
Yeah, but this time it shows up. Sometimes it won't show up.
So
Yeah, I mean, sometimes these buttons are not show up.
okay, now
This only I hover. It's blank here, but actually there are buttons here, so it's blank.
now this
Yeah.
this pane on the left, that is I misunderstood. Your pane on the left is an actual Clarion window. Is that correct?
It's Clarion window. Is
Yeah.
Clarion?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a Clarion window because you've got quite a few. I thought it was just one control on the left, like I had my navigation, which was just one control. It was a task panel. Okay, yours is a Clarion window. Then, fine. I think that is just a repaint issue because
So also there's you see we have actually two big buttons here. You see, at mouse hover, it just show up.
Yeah.
This actually same thing sometimes as these big buttons.
No, that's no problem. This is it's a repaint issue because you're on that beta version. Alan and yourself. Yes, I will. Let me get the calendar out, which has been delayed for illness, but then I will finish off that repaint and get another beta to you. But that's all that is. It's literally just a repaint. Yeah, the repaint of the particular Clarion window, if you will, the child area content.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I understand what. Well, if nothing else, you've just seen what how I would have approached it if I wanted a button on.
Yeah, I know it's
on
delayed, so it's already late. Okay. So
No,
that's
but
a
yeah,
refresh.
that is just that's a repaint issue, so we can get another beta to you.
I tried several ways to try to refresh, like post the event when in the end of the open, then just refresh, but it doesn't resolve that. Yeah.
I mean, I could take a quick look now for you, but you'd be better waiting. But just 1 second, there might be under the docking pane. Give me a second. Yeah, there used to be reader or no reader con controls. It's not that. See, I've got some of the commented out code here, which would have changed the handle. There is a method call called redraw child windows, but that might be
redraw child window. Okay.
Redraw child windows. That might be yeah. Just let me.
Okay. I can try that. Yeah. I tried some others method call, but I didn't try this one.
Yeah, I'll just bring the screen back to me and I'll show you where it would normally be, and it will go back into this beta. So
yeah, if you got a chance, yeah, later you can.
Yeah. So basically, the class. Let me just bring. You can see here. There's an event called Resize Client, which will occur quite a few times.
Oh.
So I want to make sure it's efficient and so on. But then there's my initial, so I know it's in debug. But that's what it would have done in the past. It would have called the recalc layout and the redraw child windows, and that should force a redraw of all the child windows. Now we want to try and be a bit more efficient in this next build, but that's a bit that we was up to before. That's where we're up to in this. So I will. You could try that for now. Sorry, a combination of those two, but I will look at getting it a bit more efficient for your next build. So leave that with me.
Okay, cool. Okay, thanks.
No problem. Okay.
Also, I think Alan has asked you before or not. I don't know. We have some. We have checkbox on the task pane. but we want to get event of the checkbox, but seems like no event for those checkboxes. Do you know what checkbox in? Well, you know, we can set the item as a checkbox, the client control.
Is this in a pane or on a docking?
Task pane. Task pane. In the task pane, it's there is some you know, the if I use a task pane, I can set different items.
Just let me. One second. Just let me put this back. Right, on the task panel. Let me just take a quick look for you. The task panel.
Yeah, task panel. Yeah, that's the correct word. So, task panel.
So in the webinar, have we got a task panel in there? No, we haven't. Okay. Let me find it elsewhere. Okay, so quickly compile that. Okay, so you want a check? Is it a
we have a checkbox on some this place. Yeah.
No problem.
Do you have that example? Yeah. So
your buttons. Oh, okay. Let me. There's a check.
Yeah. Is there an event when you check?
Let me just try that.
Get the event because we want when they check the user check, then we want to do something, but we can't find what the event is. Looks like we have a lot. Any output on that?
Is it? I take it it's a Clarion checkbox you're adding to it.
No, Clarion. Yeah, it's Clarion checkbox, but the Clarion handle it doesn't handle that.
Right. Okay. Let me just check that.
See if your is working.
Okay. Yeah. No, I would have expected that. So I wonder. No, I would have expected an immediate on that. Okay. I've seen this in the past with the like a button, if you will. Let me look. This has got the settings on here. So on a button, let's choose that one. Do we have settings? Control, yep, handle. Yeah, no, I've seen that in the past where you have to add the prop immediate, but I didn't see that property available for the checkbox, I'll be honest.
No.
Okay, message out. Put a message first. So where's the buttons? Button 2. Oh yes, I'm getting that, which is kind of what I expect. Now, normally I would say it's to do with the immediate because that can stop it from triggering, but I'm not seeing as we can see. No. Okay, I'll have to look at that. I vaguely remember it being mentioned, but it was a while ago. If
yeah, if you have some solution later, then let us know. So thank you.
Yep, no problem. Just trying to think what that is.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Leave it with me. I will. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody? Alex, I think Alex was here. The microphone's open. Alex?
Yes. Hi. Can
Hi.
you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I had that issue regarding the page loaded stuff.
That's right, on the report control. Okay. So quickly, I'll cover report control. Not that one, just that one. Well, one of our old examples, but it's still fine. Now I'll explain what's going on. Basically, the options you've got, and what's going on with when you're using the browse enhancers, which is one of the ones what you're doing. So just wait for this to compile. Won't be a second. Hi, sorry about that. Okay, so basically, yeah, we know we can manually load. So you've seen that. And you can load from the view, just like the calendar a second ago. But you can also take a Clarion browse and then enhance it. Now, this is, as I said in the past, this is my least preferred option. And out of those, you've got page loaded and file loaded. File loaded is better, but it's not always, as you say, you've got lots and lots of records and it's not practical. So if it's file loaded, it takes the Clarion browse, which on this screen is obviously here down to there, dynamically reads the contents from it. So all the icons, so on and so forth, the data, and these two bars, the vertical and the horizontal bars that you see, are actual report control bars. Okay, with us so far. Alex, yeah. Oh, he's muted.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know what happened there, but yes.
Okay.
So that's if it's file loaded. Now, if it's page loaded, it can't quite do the same. The horizontal bar, if one was to appear, there's not one needed on this, so that's yeah, there's no one needed. Now let me put some extra records on into this. You see, normally we would have expected to see the vertical bar by now, but what it's doing is a Clarion page. There you go. Now it's just kicked into life. Now a Clarion page loaded browse works off a thing called prop items, and it takes on the dimensions of basically what is on the screen at the moment. So if you'd have painted this half, it would know, okay, I can fit maybe 10 rows in it. So it will basically, you might have your page ahead and page behind, take that out of the equation a second. Basically, it will read so many records and paint the bar accordingly. Okay, so you can click above and below. Now that with a Clarion page loader browse, that's all you can really do. Page, click to the bottom, click to the top, or place it into the middle, that kind of thing. What happens when it's doing the enhancer is we can't replicate that inside of the report control. So the actual Clarion list is actually active. That list, that vertical bar you see there, is the actual Clarion list. That's what you're seeing. Okay, now how many rows it will load, so we can see here that we're navigating down and we're not actually seeing all of the rows, and that's because the row height that it's taking for the report control compared to the row height that the Clarion browse has got are out of sync. It sounds crazy, it's just how they are. Let me just take, I'm sure we did a way of fine-tuning this. Page loaded. It's a while since I've done this. It's that the type of thing you're getting where you're getting too many records or not enough records, that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to, I could have swore we had with some settings in
Yeah,
here
under
for it.
options, I think there's a row height under selection or appearance.
Yeah, no, that's
The net.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
just
there is
fixed
fixed height.
Yeah, that's only really to do with we'll try that, but that's only really to do with word wrap in rows. You're not really using that in this at the moment. Yeah, you see, so it's got. I thought there was a factor. Just let me bring up the class here on the other screen. Won't be a second. It might be a hidden property.
What's going on is that I'm painting that report enhancer, and I think at the time the window opens, the original browse is a certain size, obviously not maximized, and then when the window runs and it opens, it shows just enough records as if that browse was originally that size. Maybe it has, let's say, 15 or 20 records, but it's like half the screen. Because it is page loaded, so I understand it's only showing what's currently really in the list. And I noticed this seems to be an issue when you're painting, because when it paints, I think it seems to determine the size of the original browse, and then I think it gets confused. And I've tried doing all sorts of syncing and stuff, but I can't ever get it right.
Well,
Does that ring a bell, what I'm saying?
I thought, I mean, basically, a way a page loader browse will work is it determines a thing called prop items. It determines how many items need to be in a Clarion list. So I think here's one. A Clarion, yeah, that's a Clarion list. I don't know if it's file loaded. I'd have to have a look. Yeah, that's page loaded. Okay, so that is your the record set, starting at 6 at the top, down to the called toolbox. Okay, now what will happen basically when the Clarion list initializes itself, the browse, it will know how many items it can fit, and then if you was to resize, it goes off and recalculates that. Okay, and that's how the Clarion list will work. So if I made that too big and so on, and you see that the verticals disappeared and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's just a standard Clarion browse, page loaded browse. And that prop items constantly gets changed depending on, so if I make this a bit smaller, okay, now our scroll bars appeared and so on. But basically how much it needs to read depends on what the physical size is. There's a lot of people use it as a bit of trickery. I know Send2 uses it as a trick. I use it. So if you was to do an export, what you actually do is you change the height of this control to a crazy height. You change the prop items and so on, and then you tell it to reset the actual content, giving you the equivalent of a file loaded browse, but for page loaded, which of course you would need for Send2 or the export or whatever, that kind of thing, or print you would need. So to go back onto yours, what I think the problem is on this is it's the calculation between that and how many it thinks the prop line items it is. Now I'm looking here and I've got a list items. I store the dimensions and I have the X or Y position, the width and the height, the vertical scroll. Okay, and I have the items, and these are all to do with the list enhancer. Just see if there's anything else. Prop items kicks into life there. Yep. Oh, the line height, obviously. The list line height will have an effect. So let's say I go to back to this list. Okay, I go onto my page loaded Clarion browser, which you can see, and I'm going to put the line height at 20, let's say. Okay, now that's going to affect the prop items because I'm not going to get as many rows in the permissible space. Oh, wrong one, sorry. Okay. So I'm just wondering whether that would help you on yours. No, not particularly. Whether that change in it would help you at all. I'm sure that there was definitely some code we've done on this in the past to basically fine tune it to do exactly what you're after achieving. I got the line height. It thinks the line height. Won't be a second there, Alex, just looking here for stuff. Do you use a resizing template? Hi,
Okay,
Alex.
can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, sorry, you keep
Okay.
using.
I'm not using any resizing. I'm using the panes to structure everything.
Right, okay. See, what I'm thinking there is, have we got a resize on here? Yeah, allow controls to be resized. But I take that off. It's not going to make any effect on that.
It's like, I think what's happening is that when my window opens and all the painting happens, it remembers the size of the original browse.
Well, you would
And then
want
when
it,
everything
you
is
would want
painted
it
and
to resize.
resized and maximized, the enhancer shows only the amount of records as if the original browse size remains.
Well, that's true.
Resized it.
Yeah, you would want to resize. You would want to resize that control, and that's only because that's just how a Clarion browse works. It's a page loaded browse. It will only load the records. It calculates its prop items, and then it will only load that amount of data. So now the difference between this, there's your Clarion browse, and there's our report control enhancer of it. That calculation on this looks like it needs to be fine tuned, but on yours, you see, if I resize here, now that's not being resized at the moment, so that prop items won't have changed. Now if I put that resizing back on again, okay, and I'm just going to say resize. Okay, now if I change that, what will be in here will change accordingly. The number of records, then we can see that now that has disappeared. Because our Clarion, just like I demonstrated here a second ago, there's a Clarion one. If I resize, you see it will disappear. Okay, when it knows it's no longer needed. Exactly the same here. That is our Clarion list. If I resize accordingly, you'll see it disappear because it's not needed, or at least it thinks it's not needed. Okay? Now, so you will need to resize it, even though you're not resizing, the docking panes is still taking that control and resizing it. The point is that control needs to be resized. There's some little tricks you can do. Just let me show you what you can do. Is let me say, I'll turn the resizer off. Okay, so I'm going to turn that resize off. So we know that that isn't the case now. I think for you it would be easier to add a resizer, by the way. But I'll show you a trick that you can do. So we know that that's not going to won't change that browse contents. It won't refresh it or anything like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box. Okay, let's draw it there. I'm going to put it, so we'll put it over here so we can see it. That's the size of our box as it is now. Yeah, and I'm going to call it dummy resize box. And then what I will do is I'll put a couple of buttons on the screen for us to play about with that size. So I'm going to go decrease, and increase. Right, now what that's going to do is just decrease the size of that box. Show you. So prop height equals -10, something like that. and increase is just going to increase it. Just make sure that does something to start with. Won't do anything to the list. We've not told it to, but I'm just going to check that's actually doing so. That will increase. That will decrease. We get the idea. Yeah. Now what I can do, because normally if I had a resizer template on there, that would resize accordingly. Again, let's just prove that. You would have some kind of resizer on there. And it would grow accordingly. You can see it's going to grow just like that would grow, that kind of thing. Okay. Now, I'll take that resizer back off. Now, we know that the list is being resized because you've got it in a pane, which is great, but you haven't got resizing on there. So the Clarion itself doesn't know that it's been resized. It still thinks the original list is dead small, and that's why you're getting the record issue. Now, what we can do on the browse enhancer, you can go to the size, and it's calculating the line height. Yeah, this is one of the things I was on about before. Anyway, forget that. We'll come back to that in a second. But you've got here, automatically create resize box, which it'll do. I'm going to override that. I'm going to say, no, I'm going to use my own resize box. And when that changes, that's going to cause the Clarion list to change its prop items. It's going to change the Clarion list size, and it's going to change the prop items loaded. So where's our box? Oh, it's hidden it. Right, okay. But I'll increase that size of our box. Hang on 1 second. Where's that? I think I need to call a method on that as well. List.
Andy, I noticed there's a lot of methods like sync from a rig, sync from OCX, and I figure what you just did, they need to run one of those to like sync it up and redraw. Am I right? But I forget which one of those is the right one to use.
There's yes, it will be one of those. Just trying to think. Report control. All the list to the list. So you want list. I would go with something like list. I'm just going to see what the list sync height is. 1 second. Sync line height. No, that's not what I was after. Let's try that sync position. Won't be a try that. I can't remember. It's such a long time. I've got to admit, I personally, I wouldn't be. I'm not a fan of the page loaded enhancer. I'm really not. Okay, so we can see that's what it's doing. So it's decreasing. So that's kind of thing you'd want to do. We just put that on there as well. Going to resync the position, which will in turn, after it's got its new position, it will sync the line height. So basically, just let me, tell you exactly what's going on here, just so you can follow through the logic, so to speak. So it can have its own resize box, which it creates, and so on. It has to create its own resize box because it can't use a Clarion list, because we actually need to manually resize that ourselves to put it on show, i.e. here. So we can't use that. So we create a hidden resize. But in our example, we haven't done. We've actually overridden the Clarion, our hidden resize, and we've created our own box resize. Now I increase that here. That's increased it, which in turn has synchronized the Clarion list to the same height. And by doing that, it's then, because the height has changed of the Clarion list, Clarion's seen the height change and recalculated the line height and reloaded the content. If I was to increase it more, you'll see it disappear in a second because it thinks it's got enough, and decrease, and so on and so forth. So it's all about the calculation of the height. And we can see here, this is it, going smaller. And it would be reload, and it's reloading between each one. So it's all to do with the height. So, and in your example, as you say, when you're loading it, it's defined as one particular size, like so, and then when it's being mounted in the docking pane, that's resizing it, but the Clarion list is never being told to resize. Because it's never being resized, its content is never changing, so it'll look like that. So you don't necessarily have to use your own resize box, but basically what you would need to do is resize that control. So either use a resizing template, which would be probably your better option. I'm just going to take that box back off. Where's that page load? Does that make sense, Alex? It's muted again.
Me?
Hi, Alex. Sorry,
Okay.
you keep muting.
It does make
It's not me.
sense. Can you show me real quick the code after you resize that box? What method do you run to redraw everything?
Yeah.
then?
Yeah, no problem. I'm just going to,
Thank
I
you.
had my own list there. Sorry, my own box. So on that size, I said, don't have the template create a resizing box. We'll have our own. You don't have to do that. You could just have.
Because I could just, because I see in the code formatter, the box that you're creating, I could just use that one and decrease that one, correct?
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
But if you had a resizing template, that would do that for you automatically. Now that will decrease. It won't do anything to this because the two aren't linked anymore. So it would be that what you want to change. But so you could do that box, as you said, do it, that box. Just make sure you are still open. Yep. Box. No, not that. There, that one. That'll be it. Inbox box. So what you would probably want.
So link sync positions is the command I want afterwards?
It is, yep.
After each resize?
Yep. I'm just going to do that box. So I've got a box on screen. Okay, so you've got something like that. Just do the same here. But basically, what it's doing, the key is whether you have your own dummy resize box, or whether you use a built-in resize box. Oh, that won't work. It's got double thing in it. But whether you use a built-in one, or whether you create your own, and so on, the key is that whatever it is, the box is going to be resized, which means that then you synchronize the position, and what that will do is it will resize the height of Clarion's page loaded list control to the height of the resizing box. And when that height changes, that triggers Clarion to automatically recalculate the number of items required and reset the browser accordingly. And all that's done automatically just by changing the height. I mean, to prove it, what I could do is just literally change the height of the Clarion list, which is all a resize template does as well anyway. Where are we? Sorry. Prop height equals that. Yep. So, and that's the key to it. So, changing this, decreasing this. Oh, it's not liked what I've done there. I've definitely got something wrong. Oh, that's the prop height off. What an idiot. Well, if nothing else, you saw the box with size. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to change the size of that, which will in turn tell that to resize itself, which will in turn cause a reload, recalculation of the prop items, and reload accordingly. So decreasing, and we can see the Clarion list is doing exactly what we'd expect it to do. And that will be reloading different items. If we was to message that out, the prop items, you'll see it changing all the time.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy, for showing this.
Oh, no problem at all. It is, as I say, I had to use a page loaded in, I think, a couple of weeks ago when you first asked this question. I had to use a page loaded in an application. I'm not saying you can never use them, but I also have to be quite honest. And out of the whole ways of loading the data, it is my most least preferred. But let's just change that particular setting as well, see if it helps. But it will work. It will do what you're after, and there will be reasons why you will need to. Like I say, if you've got lots of records and so on and so forth, it's just not my favorite. That's all.
Yeah, it's something I prefer the other ones as well, but we got a couple of screens where it just got like 300,000 records and stuff, and it's just going to take too long to load.
In the application where I had to use it, it was an ABC application and so on. It was so it wasn't being forced of legacy or anything like that, which is page loaded by default. But yeah, basically there was hundreds of thousands of records, and yeah, we page loaded wasn't an option. File/view loaded wasn't an option. So yeah, we did it. I actually. I'll see if I can get permission to show it because it was in someone's application for next time we hook up. But what I actually did, because it was hosted in docking panes, because the docking pane. Oh, you've just muted again. That's not me, but for some reason you keep muting. What I did, because the docking pane can only ever take one handle, it takes a handle of this list, basically of the enhancer, which means that the actual raw navigation here via the scroll gets lost. So what I actually did is create a docking pane to hold. It's just muted again. Yeah, I created a docking pane to hold the list. I created 3 separate panes on the right, one to hold an up arrow button, one to hold a down arrow button, and one to hold a dummy image which looked like a scroll bar. And then I just allowed them to call the scroll up and the scroll down via them buttons. So it gives visually the effect of a scroll bar, but it was actually 4 separate panes.
That's pretty inventive.
The user never knows any difference.
Oh.
So it's just a little tip. And it was literally just used, I think it was a snipping tool, grabbed an image of that and just created a button of something like, I think it was so many pixels by so many pixels. Same with the down arrow button, and then an empty scroll bar, and that was nothing more than basically a dummy. In fact, no, I didn't put any image on the middle pane, but to the end user, it looked identical.
Yeah.
So they're just methods. They're just methods. That's your report control dot scroll up, and that's scroll down. Which is just like the user clicking on here, and going down one, and then but basically, because what happens here, it clicking on the report control keeps the page loaded browse behind the scenes in sync. Clicking on the page loaded browse keeps the report control in sync. So it's a two-way it's a two-way interaction. So of course, calling scroll up, scroll down will still be making sure you're on the correct link record on the on the underlying browse. So yeah, it works perfectly fine for you.
Okay. I'll give that a try.
Cool. Okie dokie, right. If I can't get permission to demonstrate that, what I'll do is I'll just knock up another example in the next webinar, and I'll show you how to just do it in the example app. So, that's
awesome.
ways and means.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it.
No problem.
I hope you're feeling better, by the way. I know you were sick last week.
Yeah, thank you. Get in there now. Over the worst of it, touch wood. Just still got remains of a bit of a niggly cough, and fatigue does kick in quite a lot faster than previously. But on the whole, much better. So thank you. Now, as I said, right on cue. As I said, the next week is a public holiday here in the UK, so there won't be a webinar on Monday. So that'll be the 13th. So the next one will be the 20th of April. So until then, everybody, I shall see you then.
Have a good one. Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you, Andy.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Oh,
thanks. Bye-bye.
Who's just jumped in? Someone's just asked a quick question, and I can't see who the question is. Oh, it's Marty. On the docking panes, if the child content stays open once selected, then it seems that eventually all window contents will be open, and that consume resources not being displayed. If using the template hide, user would close not in use. Okay, so what Marty's just quickly asked was on the docking panes. We mentioned docking panes a second ago. Oh, I didn't have the example, but yes, basically on the docking panes, the more, if you're using lazy open, which definitely do recommend, do use that. But the more options you open, so I'll open patient list here, and of course that patient list window is now active and running. And then I could, and so this child window of this list. So there's 2 windows open, and then there's another one. So there's 3, and our other one there's 4. And as you say, the more you open, the more resources you would ultimately take up. Well, you've got a method close pane, which will do exactly that. And if it's got a window associated with it, i.e., its content has been opened, then you can close that. So it will close that, or at least it will pass the events across to close it, and there's no reason why it won't close, unless you've got code in there to stop it closing, of course. So yes, basically, you can do your own management of those if you so wish. And as for which panes are currently open at any one time, you just have to query that particular list. There's a queue, and that queue is available to you via the docking pane window manager class. There's a whole class dedicated to it. So hopefully that answers that for you, Marty. Just open. Marty, does that make sense?
I was saying yes, but funny enough, being muted does kind of put a little limit on that. So
I don't know what's
anyway,
happening with the meeting software today. People, I left you open before, but it seems to be going through a muting quite a lot. So pass. It wasn't me.
Who knows?
but yes, basically the docking pane window manager class would keep a list of anything what's currently open, especially in
So
this
we
next
would
update.
so we could just query that, look at that queue. Yeah, it was just sort of giving the user some way to know that by the way, you've got 8 windows open, because there'd be no way for them to see that visually. Yeah, and so maybe I was thinking a little put a little maybe another pane with a little list of number of windows you have open or something. You know, with a little
I do something
indicator
similar oh crikey, is it working on this now? Oh, I might be on the server at work. Let me just quickly try. Not sure it's on here or the server at work. Our betting software. Yeah, it's trying to connect to a different data source. Right, but basically, they can open multiple races all at the same time, and they will do. And they might go to a race meeting where there's 8, 9 horse races all on for that day. So they will open the first one, but they will leave that open and open another one, and so on and so forth throughout the day, because people will be going enjoying their day. They'll come back later on and go and claim their winnings, so they don't want to have to go and reopen that particular race. They will go back later on. They'll switch to it. So just like switching of the panes on this, but I just give them a little drop down. I do it via the command bars actually, because the command bars will keep a track of your MDI child windows open for you, including their window titles. So I do it by the command bars.
Okay.
Yeah, the command bar's got an option in there, a type of controller. You can call it a windowless control, which is one of our inventions, but all it does is keep track of the MDI child windows for you, and just present them in the little drop-down list.
Right, that would be the kind of thing I would imagine doing. Yep.
Yeah. So that would be that would work for you, but it only is on MDI windows. That.
Okay, great. Thanks for taking the extra time.
No problem. Just caught it before I ever pressed end. But on that note, I think my voice is nearly gone, so I'm going to go.
Good enough. Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
so we
everybody.
look forward to seeing this tomorrow. That's wonderful.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cheers, everybody.
Yes.
Bye. Oh, do watch for the calendar tomorrow. Actually, in all seriousness, yes, do get the download and run and play and test and enjoy the new calendar, and that will be tomorrow.
Oh, looking forward to it. That'll be fabulous. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.